Amanda cried painfully like someone who had lost everything in life. Her voice did not just shake the walls, it pierced them. It echoed through the long, cold corridors of the hospital, crawling under chairs, slapping against windows, and stopping every heartbeat in the building. The nurses at the front desk froze, their pens falling from their hands. A mother breastfeeding her baby in the waiting area paused, eyes wide with silent fear. Even the ticking wall clock seemed to hold its breath. Amanda's scream wasn't ordinary. It came from a place so deep, so broken, that it made people think the world was about to end. Doctors came running. One dropped his stethoscope. Another whispered to a colleague, "Is she dying?" But it wasn't her body that was giving up, it was something else. Something invisible. Her eyes were wide open, but they were looking at something no one else could see. Her hands clutched her chest, her legs kicked wildly, and her mouth opened again. But this time, no sound came out. Only silence. Heavy, haunting silence. One doctor stood by her bed, sweating. His lips trembled as he muttered, "I have never seen this type of medical condition before." Something terrible had entered Amanda's life. Something beyond medicine. 3 months earlier. Amanda had always been the girl who refused to be swallowed by her environment. She grew up in Makoko, the floating slum of Lagos where life was hard, water was disease, and dreams often drowned before they could walk. But Amanda? Amanda dared to dream of a university degree, even if it meant climbing rooftops to sell sachet water. Even if it meant laying bricks with men twice her size. Even if it meant chasing buses barefoot at Ojaleba just to sell fried plantains to angry passengers stuck in traffic. I go school, she used to tell herself, her chest rising with defiance. Even if not death remain, I go still try. One day, while helping lift cement bags for a local construction site, a sleek black Jeep rolled up. Inside was a man whose belly spilled slightly over his Gucci belt. He wore dark shades even though the sky was gray. His voice was soft, but it cut through noise like a blade. He asked her, "Can I know your name, pretty lady?" She hesitated. "Amanda." He smiled. "You have the spirit of a lion. I like hardworking ladies like you who are very focused and determined." Amanda shifted uncomfortably, feeling both intrigued and wary. She had met men like this before. Rich, smooth-talking, and always with something to offer. But she was no fool. Her life had taught her to be cautious, to trust few, and take nothing for granted. "Thanks," she said cautiously, adjusting the sack of cement on her shoulder. "But I don't need any favors. I'm fine doing things my way." The man laughed softly, as if amused by her response. He took off his sunglasses, revealing eyes that were sharp and calculating. "I didn't say anything about favors," he replied, his tone smooth yet firm. "But opportunities? Now, that's something different. You've got drive, Amanda. I can see it. Ever thought about putting that energy into something bigger than this?" He gestured vaguely at the construction site around them. Amanda didn't answer right away. She could feel her heartbeat quicken, but she didn't let it show. His words were tempting, but she wasn't about to jump into anything blindly. "I don't need to be saved," she said finally, her voice steady but guarded. "I've been doing just fine on my own." His smile widened, as if he was pleased by her defiance. "No one's asking you to be saved, but I'm offering you a chance to move beyond this place. Something bigger. Think about it. Studying abroad. A better life. You've earned it." Amanda studied him for a long moment, trying to gauge if he was serious or just another man with a shiny car trying to play her. She had heard promises before, and they often didn't live up to the hype. "Why me?" she asked, her suspicion evident in her voice. "What makes you think I'm worth this chance?" He leaned back slightly, studying her, his expression now unreadable. "I see potential in you, Amanda. Not many have it. You've got fire in your eyes. People like you don't let things stand in their way. I like that. I want to help you get where you belong." She didn't know whether to be flattered or insulted. The offer felt too good to be true, and yet something about him made her hesitate. She bit her lip, the weight of her circumstances pressing down on her. Life in Makoko had never been kind, and every day was a battle. Could this man really offer her a way out? Or was this just another illusion? "I'll think about it," she said finally, her voice calm but resolute. "But don't get any ideas. I'm not some charity case, and I don't trust people just because they show up in shiny cars." He nodded, as if expecting this response. "Fair enough. But when you're ready, I'll be here. Here's my card." He handed her a sleek business card, the gold letters almost shimmering in the dim light. She hesitated, then took it, tucking it into her pocket without a word. As he turned to leave, he called over his shoulder. "Remember, Amanda, opportunity only knocks once. Don't keep it waiting too long." And with that, he was gone, leaving her standing in the dust and heat, her thoughts swirling. They said no one ever truly leaves Makoko. You can escape the stench, the noise, the broken wood beneath your feet, but you carry it with you. And when Amanda screamed that day in the hospital, she wasn't just crying for what she saw. She was crying for everything she had buried in her soul. Her scream wasn't loud. It was wide. It spread like smoke, seeping into every corner of the building, gripping hearts and freezing movement. Something had snapped inside her, something that medicine couldn't fix. What could do that to a person? The answer began years ago. Makoko was never meant for children. It was a floating slum built on hope and rot, where the water below smelled like metal and secrets. Amanda was born there, under a leaking roof, in a shack that tilted when the wind breathed too hard. Her mother sold dried fish on a canoe. Her father left when she was 3. School was never a plan. Eating was. Yet, Amanda grew up believing her mind was worth something. She stared at the sky like it was a place she could walk to. She wanted more than the water could give her. Every morning, she woke before the sun. She tied her scarf tight, wore her brother's oversized shirt, and carried cement on construction sites just to earn a few naira. Boys stared at her, confused. How could a girl lift like that? Amanda never flinched. She worked like her life depended on it, because it did. Her dream wasn't fame or money. It was a classroom. 4 walls. A chalkboard. A desk with her name on it. She wanted to go to university, not just any university, but in the US. She didn't know how, but she believed she could. The streets of Lagos don't care about belief. They chew it up and spit it into the gutters. Amanda knew this, but she fought anyway. She skipped meals to save money. She taught herself English by reading torn pages of old newspapers. She watched YouTube videos in cyber cafes until the attendants kicked her out. But still, the dream burned inside her. Every rejection felt like a slap, but it didn't stop her. Her body carried bruises, not from violence, but from exhaustion. The day after their encounter at the construction site, Amanda still finds herself uncertain about the offer from the billionaire. She spends days reflecting on the opportunity he presented, the life beyond Makoko that she had dreamed of yet couldn't quite believe in. The glimmer of hope he offered feels too far out of reach. The idea of a life with education, freedom, and success feels impossible. But as the days pass, the weight of her circumstances, her everyday struggles, and the promise of something more pushes her toward a decision she never thought she'd make. Finally, with a sigh of resignation, Amanda picks up the phone and dials the number on the business card he gave her. She hesitates for a moment as it rings, feeling the tension rise in her chest. But the calm, steady voice of the billionaire on the other end quickly calms her nerves. "Hello, Amanda," Victor Ashford says, his voice smooth and reassuring. "I hope you're considering what we discussed." He reminds her of the potential he saw in her, urging her not to miss this chance. His words are soft but firm. "Opportunity only knocks once, Amanda. Think about the future you could have." His appeal to her ambition and desire for a better life strikes deep within her. The call is brief but powerful, and Amanda begins to feel the first threads of trust weaving between them. Though she remains cautious, the opportunity to escape her suffocating world is too strong to ignore. Victor sets up a meeting to finalize the scholarship and discuss the next steps for her studies abroad. Amanda knows this is her chance, but doubts linger. She tells herself that she's not some naive girl, but the reality of her struggles back home and the escape this could offer her is too powerful to dismiss. She agrees to meet him the next day. The meeting between Amanda and Victor Ashford takes place in a luxurious cafe, an environment so far removed from her humble beginnings in Makoko that she feels out of place. The space is filled with polished wood, expensive leather chairs, and soft lighting that seems to glow with affluence. Victor is already seated at a corner table, impeccably dressed in a tailored dark suit, his appearance strikingly different from the rough and worn clothes Amanda is used to. Victor Ashford, a self-made billionaire, stands in stark contrast to the life Amanda left behind. A man in his early 40s, Victor is the epitome of confidence and control. He carries himself with a quiet authority, his sharp features always holding a slight smirk. His eyes are calculating, constantly assessing those around him. His wealth is unmistakable: private jets, elite social circles, and a network of powerful connections. A dominant force in the world of real estate and finance, Victor is known for his ruthless business strategies and his ability to dominate markets. For him, people are tools to be used, and Amanda is no different. Victor greets Amanda with a courteous smile, but there's something unsettling about the way his eyes scrutinize her. He gestures for her to sit, and as she does, the disparity between their worlds becomes impossible to ignore. The gleaming watch on his wrist, the calm and controlled way he speaks, every part of him exudes power, while Amanda feels like an outsider, unworthy of the life he promises. "I've arranged everything for you, Amanda," Victor says, his voice smooth and persuasive, almost like a promise. "The scholarship, the visa, your accommodation, and tuition, it's all been taken care of. The only thing left for you to do is accept the opportunity." Amanda listens intently, trying to process what she's hearing. The billionaire speaks about a future filled with privilege, one where her hard work and drive would be rewarded with an education in the United States. A world far removed from the poverty of Makoko, one where she could escape the cycle of survival she had known all her life. Victor leans forward, his tone shifting from professional to personal. "I see potential in you, Amanda. The kind of potential that can take you beyond this place." He gestures vaguely around them, a slight smirk playing on his lips. "But you must understand that nothing is free. In return, I expect your loyalty and dedication." The same drive that brought you this far is what will propel you into a world where success is the only thing that matters. Amanda's heart races. The offer is tempting, everything she's ever wanted. An education, an escape, a chance to prove herself. Yet, her instincts scream at her to be cautious. There's an underlying pressure in his words, a quiet sense of expectation that makes her question if there's more to this than just helping her succeed. Victor's eyes never leave hers. His presence feels overpowering, making her feel small and vulnerable despite the facade of control she tries to maintain. But as the conversation continues, Victor reassures her, "This is your moment, Amanda. Don't let it slip away." Amanda is torn. The life he's offering is everything she's dreamed of and more, but something about the way he speaks, the hidden expectation behind his words, gives her pause. She's not the naive girl she once was. She knows the world is full of men like him, men who offer promises, but demand a price in return. But then, there's the weight of her situation, the poverty, the desperation, the constant struggle to survive. This is her chance to escape it all. The opportunity is so close, yet the cost of taking it remains uncertain. Victor notices her hesitation and leans back in his chair, his smile never fading. "Think about it," he says, his voice softer now. "The future is yours for the taking. All you have to do is choose." Amanda takes a deep breath, the tension in her chest building. She's come this far, and the world he's offering is too tempting to resist. Still, she tells herself that she's not some naive girl. She knows there's always a price to pay, but the possibility of a better life, of leaving Makoko behind, seems to outweigh her doubts. "I'll do it," Amanda says, her voice firm, though uncertainty still lingers in her heart. "I'll go." Victor smiles again, his cold, calculating eyes never leaving her face. "Good. We'll make all the arrangements. This is just the beginning, Amanda. You've made the right choice." As she leaves the cafe, Amanda feels a mix of emotions, hope, excitement, and dread. She's stepping into a new world, one that promises so much, but she can't shake the feeling that the cost of this new life will be higher than she ever imagined. Within a week, Amanda's visa was processed and her flight ticket booked. She was ready to fly out to pursue her long-time dream of becoming a graduate. Amanda arrives in the US with a mixture of excitement and fear swirling in her chest. The plane ride had been long, the unfamiliar sights of the country growing more surreal as they neared their destination. Now, standing in front of her new home, a sleek, modern apartment with large windows and a breathtaking view of the city skyline, she can hardly believe it's real. Everything is pristine, new, and comfortable. The apartment is furnished with expensive, polished furniture, the walls adorned with art that screams wealth and sophistication. There is no trace of the dusty roads, cramped homes, or the relentless noise of Makoko. Here, in this new world, Amanda feels small, out of place, as though she doesn't belong. But at the same time, there's a sense of awe that overwhelms her. She sits by the window for a long time, watching the sun dip below the horizon, a scene so beautiful and distant from the harsh, polluted waters of Makoko. The contrast is staggering. This was supposed to be her dream, the life she had fought for. And now it was here. But what was the cost? Victor calls her later that evening, his voice warm, but with an edge of authority. "I trust you've settled in well, Amanda.
Make sure to get some rest.
You'll need your energy for what's ahead." His words hang in the air, almost like a reminder that she's just begun. She feels a strange tension in the pit of her stomach as she responds. "Yes, everything is great. I'm attesting." "Well, we'll be attending a few events tomorrow," he continues. "I've already introduced you to some key people who can open doors for you. I expect you to be present, Amanda. You'll need to start building your network. These people will be crucial for your future here." The request feels less like an invitation and more like an order, but Amanda doesn't dare question him. He is the one who has given her this life, after all. She has no choice but to play along. The next few weeks pass in a blur of events and introductions. Amanda is thrust into a world she's never known, luxury parties, elegant gatherings with men and women who wear expensive clothes and speak in a language of power and influence. There is no shortage of high-ranking professionals, politicians, and other billionaires who offer hollow smiles and handshake deals. At first, Amanda feels out of place in these circles, unsure of how to navigate the conversations. She is acutely aware of the gap between the life she used to live and the life she now leads. The first few events are overwhelming, but she gradually begins to fit in, her discomfort easing with each new connection. But despite this, Amanda cannot shake the feeling that she's being carefully groomed for something more than just an education. Victor is always present, guiding her through these events, introducing her to key figures, and subtly reinforcing her dependency on him. His presence feels like a shadow, never too far from her. She doesn't know if it's his wealth, his power, or the promises he made to her that make her feel so small in his world, but she knows she's not free. She's tied to him, and everything she's building is dependent on his continued favor. At each event, the feeling of unease grows. The conversations are always transactional. Amanda's value seems to be based on how she fits into the circles Victor has invited her into. She is no longer just a hardworking girl from Makoko. She is now a piece in his game, moved and shaped as needed. Every handshake, every interaction feels like part of a grand design, one that she's not entirely sure she wants to be a part of. But the promises of wealth, influence, and opportunities she couldn't even dream of keep her moving forward. Despite the world she's entering, Amanda begins to feel the creeping weight of Victor's influence growing heavier. His interest in her, once distant and professional, has shifted. He starts calling her more often, his tone familiar, almost possessive. His compliments, though still praising her intellect and drive, begin to feel more personal. He wants to know where she is at all times, what she's doing, and who she's talking to. There's no question that Victor sees her as an investment, and his investment requires more than just compliance. It requires loyalty, complete submission, and the willingness to play by his rules. He begins pushing her to attend more private events, to meet people who seem to hold no genuine interest in her other than what she represents to them. A young, ambitious woman with the potential to further the ambitions of powerful men. Amanda starts to sense the expectations piling on her, and a part of her resents how easily Victor has woven himself into every aspect of her new life. At first, she tries to ignore it, telling herself she's just learning the ropes, adjusting to the demands of this new life. But when Victor presses her to make certain appearances that feel increasingly uncomfortable, events where the focus is less on her academic potential and more on her image, Amanda begins to question what Victor really wants from her. As Amanda grows more involved in this world, the strain begins to show. She becomes more withdrawn at times, sensing the price of success in this new life may be more than she's willing to pay. Victor's expectations start to feel less like guidance and more like control. Each time she attends another lavish event, she feels like she's losing a little piece of herself. The constant pressure to succeed, to meet the billionaire standards, begins to weigh heavily on her. The life she's been promised is starting to feel more like a gilded cage. Amanda begins to question her decisions, wondering if she's making a mistake by continuing to trust Victor and if this path is truly the one she wants to walk. But she pushes these thoughts aside, unable to face the reality of what might happen if she walks away. As weeks turn into months, Amanda's life begins to take shape in ways she hadn't fully anticipated. The connections she's made, the doors Victor has opened for her, have already begun to provide opportunities she could have only dreamed of in Makoko. Her academic success at the university flourishes, and she starts to receive praise from professors and peers alike, but something feels increasingly off about it all. Victor's influence over her life, though still masked by what seems like care and concern, starts to feel more suffocating. His calls become more frequent, his check-ins more insistent. At first, she thought it was just part of the mentor-mentee relationship he had promised, but now it feels like control. His voice on the phone, though still warm, carries an undercurrent of expectation. "Did you meet with the people I told you about, Amanda?" Victor's voice asks one evening after she finishes an event. "You need to build those relationships. This is your future." There's no denying that Victor is right about one thing. These meetings, these relationships, they could lead to something big. And yet, Amanda feels like a puppet, her every move seemingly orchestrated by Victor's will. She tries to convince herself that this is the price of success, that to be part of this world, she must play the game. But as the invitations to social events grow more frequent and personal, Amanda begins to question what success truly means if it comes at the expense of her own autonomy. The first event that makes her feel truly uncomfortable is a private dinner at a high-end restaurant. Victor has invited several prominent businessmen, men who hold the keys to the city's wealth, and she is to accompany him. She knows she's expected to be more than just a guest. She's expected to perform a role. As she arrives, the atmosphere feels too polished, too cold. The men eye her up and down, as if assessing her value beyond just her academic potential. Their gazes make her skin crawl, their smiles faint and insincere. Victor, ever the charmer, seems to thrive in this world, his power undisturbed by the discomfort Amanda feels. He introduces her with a flourish, as though she's just another piece in his meticulously constructed empire. Amanda smiles, playing the role she has been given. But every time she speaks, every time she meets their gaze, she feels as if she's losing a little more of herself. The weight of Victor's manipulation presses down on her, and she wonders how long she can keep pretending that this life is what she truly wants. As Victor's hold over Amanda grows, so does the pressure to perform and to maintain her place in this world. It's no longer just about attending events, it's about maintaining an image, fitting into a mold that has been created for her. She attends lavish parties, private gatherings, and meetings that stretch into late hours of the night. Everywhere she goes, she feels the eyes of others upon her, evaluating her every word, her every move. Victor starts to introduce her to increasingly influential figures, politicians, wealthy philanthropists, and international moguls who expect more than polite conversation. They want her to prove her value, and Amanda knows that she can't falter. This isn't just a social game. It's one where survival depends on making the right connections and aligning with the right people. "Stay close to these people, Amanda," Victor tells her during one of their calls. "They can help you. Your future depends on these relationships." It's during one of these moments, after a particularly grueling event, that Amanda realizes the true cost of this life. The promise of a better future, a life of privilege, has come with more than just the social obligations. It has come with expectations she never signed up for. Amanda begins to feel as though she's been sold an illusion. What once seemed like a grand opportunity now feels like a trap, a gilded cage where every move is monitored, every word scrutinized. Amanda stood on the busy streets of New York, her feet planted firmly on the pavement. She had made it. This was the beginning of her dream come true. She had left the congested, noisy streets of Makoko far behind, and here she was, a university student in a foreign country, full of hope and excitement. The air smelled different here, fresh, filled with promise. The world before her stretched infinitely, yet there was an unsettling weight on her chest. Her heart raced as she walked, thoughts running wild. I've made it this far. I have to make this count, she told herself. But there was a constant pressure, an invisible force she couldn't ignore. Victor, the man who had offered to sponsor her, was always in the back of her mind. She couldn't help but think about the deal they had made, the favor he had done for her. She should be grateful, shouldn't she? But it wasn't just the help he had provided. It was the price she was starting to feel, a cost that grew heavier with each passing day. Amanda's thoughts swirled with worry. She had come to the US with one goal in mind, to escape the life of poverty she knew in Makoko, to build a future with her own hands. Yet, Victor's presence in her life made her feel like a puppet, her strings pulled by someone she didn't fully trust. She had grown up learning the value of independence, but now, as she walked in the shadow of his promises, she wondered if that independence was slipping away from her. Her hands trembled slightly as she reached for her phone. Victor's name flashed on the screen. The price of her success was becoming too clear, and she felt herself slipping into an uncomfortable place where his expectations began to grow. The more she tried to focus on her studies, the more Victor's presence haunted her every thought. His words echoed in her mind. Nothing comes without a price. Amanda, determined not to let him control her, worked harder. She told herself over and over that she didn't owe him anything. But the promises he made seemed like the only way out of the darkness she'd come from, a path that made her question her own integrity. Would she make it without Victor's help? She tried to focus on her textbooks and dreams, but the days felt heavy, like chains around her ankles. Amanda had never expected things to be easy, but this felt like something different. The more she rejected Victor's indirect offers, the more desperate she felt for the success he had promised. Was she fooling herself into thinking she could make it alone? Or was she about to give in to the pressure that was growing by the day? As Amanda sat alone in her dorm room, she couldn't avoid it any longer. Every time Victor called, every message left unanswered, she felt her resistance slip. The fear of failure tugged at her like an unseen force, the same force that had pushed her to take a leap of faith by coming here. It seemed like the only way to survive was to accept the help Victor offered. But at what cost? She wasn't sure anymore, but the growing pressure weighed too heavily on her to ignore. The pressure from Victor didn't let up. Every day, his calls became more frequent, each one more insistent than the last. Amanda couldn't escape the feeling that she was trapped. She had come to the US with dreams of success, but now, Victor's promises of a bright future felt more like shackles. His words were soft but heavy. I'm doing this for you, Amanda. This is what you need to succeed. She felt the weight of his expectations on her, and every step she took forward felt like one closer to surrendering to his will. Her confidence began to waver. The more Amanda resisted Victor's subtle requests, the more he pushed. Think about your future, he'd say, his tone always calm but full of authority. It was becoming hard to ignore the truth that Victor held the key to everything she wanted. Her academic future, her dreams. She had always told herself that she would never compromise her integrity for success, but as the days wore on, that line seemed to blur more and more. Amanda found herself isolated. She had come to the US to make something of herself, to escape the life she had known. But the life she was building now felt like a facade, one that Victor could shatter with a single word. His presence loomed over every decision she made. His help had gotten her here, but now it seemed that to keep moving forward, she would have to yield. The thought made her stomach churn, but the fear of losing everything was becoming too much to bear. Victor's influence became all-consuming. Amanda's friends noticed it too, how she seemed to be pulled into a world that wasn't hers. She had come to the US with a fire in her heart, but now, that fire was being extinguished by his constant presence. Her independence felt like a distant memory, replaced by the guilt of needing something she didn't want to ask for. Every day was a battle within herself. Was it worth it? Was her future worth this compromise? After months of persuasion, Amanda reached a breaking point. The pressure Victor had put on her was too much. The life she had fought so hard for seemed so close yet felt so far away. Her ambition for success was strong, but it was crumbling under the weight of Victor's demands. She had told herself she wouldn't cave, but now she wasn't sure she had a choice. The fear of being sent back to Nigeria, of losing everything she had worked for, pushed her to the edge. She agreed to meet Victor in his hotel room, with the heavy knowledge that everything was about to change. Amanda's decision to meet Victor at his hotel room marked a turning point she couldn't undo. The guilt hit her immediately, but she pushed it aside, telling herself it was just a small compromise to secure her future. She couldn't afford to be weak, not now. The weight of what she had agreed to did not hit her until she stood outside the door, feeling the heaviness of her choices pressing down on her chest. She had told herself she was in control, but now, everything felt like it was slipping through her fingers. The hotel room was nothing like she had imagined. The plush furniture and soft lighting made it feel like another world, one she didn't belong in. As she sat there, waiting for Victor, the surreal feeling only grew. She had come here for one reason, one decision that she hoped would be worth it. But deep down, a voice inside her screamed that this wasn't the path she should have taken. Her stomach twisted with uncertainty, but the promise of a better life drowned out the voice of doubt. Victor entered the room with a calm, confident smile. His presence filled the space, and Amanda felt small in comparison. He made it seem like nothing was wrong, like this was just part of the deal she had agreed to. She tried to steady her breath, reminding herself that she was doing this for her future. But the more she thought about the sacrifice she was making, the more her resolve faltered. Was this really worth it? The guilt was suffocating, but Amanda convinced herself that it was just one time. One decision for everything she had ever dreamed of. What happened in that hotel room stayed with her long after she left. The feeling of being trapped never left her. She had compromised her values for the sake of survival, and now she felt like a different person. Her body didn't belong to her anymore. It had become a tool for someone else's gain. She told herself it was just a necessary step, but the regret simmered beneath the surface. It wasn't just the physical act. It was the weight of what she had given up to get here, to keep moving forward. Amanda walked away from the hotel, her thoughts swirling in confusion. The guilt continued to gnaw at her, and as she tried to resume her studies, she found that her mind couldn't focus. The once clear path ahead now seemed clouded with shame and uncertainty. The physical symptoms, too, began to appear soon after her decision. Sudden fatigue, stomach pains, and headaches that wouldn't go away. She tried to dismiss it, blaming it on stress, but deep down, she knew it was something more. Something inside her had shifted, and the toll of her decision was beginning to show. Amanda's health worsened as the days passed, and she became increasingly withdrawn. Her stomach, once flat and strong, now swelled painfully, and the fatigue that weighed her down grew unbearable. She couldn't concentrate on her studies, and every time she tried to focus, the pain in her body pulled her away. Desperation gnawed at her. The doctors in the US had no answers, and the treatments didn't work. Her body was failing her, and she knew she couldn't continue this way. The decision was made. Amanda would return to Nigeria, hoping to find something, anything, that could bring relief. Her return to Nigeria felt like a failure. She had left Makoko full of hope, certain that she would rise above her circumstances. But now, back in her hometown, she felt lost and broken. The vibrant energy that once fueled her dreams seemed distant. The streets of Lagos were still the same, but Amanda was different, changed by the choices she had made. She had hoped for a better future, but now, as she looked around, everything felt as though it had slipped through her fingers. Her health continued to deteriorate, and the weight of guilt followed her wherever she went. Amanda visited hospital after hospital, hoping for a diagnosis. But no doctor could explain what was happening to her body. Her stomach swelled painfully, and the fatigue was overwhelming. Her energy was depleted, leaving her feeling drained and helpless. The doctors she saw only offered advice she had already heard in the US: stress and exhaustion. But Amanda knew deep down that it wasn't just physical. Something darker was at work, something she couldn't understand. No treatment worked, and the pain only intensified. She began to question if this illness had a deeper, more spiritual cause, linked to her decisions. The more time Amanda spent in Nigeria, the more isolated she felt. Her friends, though well-meaning, couldn't understand her suffering. They told her to rest, to relax, but the pain wouldn't go away. She couldn't explain to them the fear that haunted her, the fear that her life had gone terribly off course. The dreams she once had now seemed distant, almost unreachable. She had crossed an unforgivable line, and she couldn't shake the feeling that her body was paying the price for her decisions. She felt alone in a crowd, trapped in her own body, unable to escape the consequences of her choices. Amanda's return to Nigeria was supposed to be a fresh start, but instead, it felt like the end of everything she had worked for. The sickness that plagued her body wasn't just physical, it was emotional, spiritual. Every step she took felt heavier than the last, and the more she tried to regain control, the more out of reach it seemed. She began to feel like she was caught in a storm, her past and future colliding in ways she couldn't control. The world that had once held so much promise now seemed dark and unwelcoming, as if her very existence had been cursed by her own decisions. Amanda's condition worsened with each passing day. The doctors in Nigeria, just like those in the US, had no answers for her increasingly strange symptoms. The pain in her stomach had become unbearable, and her body no longer felt like her own. She had become a stranger in her own skin. Every time she looked at herself in the mirror, she saw someone different. A person who had lost control, who had paid a heavy price for dreams that seemed now more like a nightmare. The health of her body mirrored the brokenness in her soul, and she knew deep down, that the two were linked. She began to understand that the illness she was suffering from was not just physical. Her body had become the battleground for her guilt, her choices, and the promises she had made to herself. The shame of what she had done to survive, the compromises, the sacrifices, had manifested as something far worse than any physical pain she could imagine. Amanda had thought that success was the answer to everything, but now, it felt like the very thing that had led her to this point. Her health was failing, and so was her spirit. Days blurred into weeks as Amanda's health deteriorated, and the world she had once dreamed of now seemed like a distant, unreachable place. Her stomach swelled more, the pain intensifying until it was all-consuming. She could no longer sleep, could no longer think clearly. Every breath she took felt like a struggle, and every step she made felt like an enormous weight pressing down on her. The hopes and dreams that had once driven her were now crushed beneath the unbearable pressure of her own choices. She couldn't escape the feeling that she was being punished, that her body was rejecting the path she had chosen. Amanda's nights were filled with nightmares, visions of her past, her decisions, and her future. She saw the image of Victor, always present, his promises of a brighter future now twisted into something sinister. She wondered if this was the price she had to pay for wanting something more. Was this her punishment for compromising everything she believed in? The guilt gnawed at her, and with each passing day, she felt further from the person she had once been. She no longer recognized herself, not in the mirror, not in her dreams, and not in the life she was now living. With her health in decline and no answers in sight, Amanda began to understand the true cost of her ambition. The dreams of success, the future she had fought for, had led her to a place where she could no longer see the light. She had given so much to achieve her goals, but now, it seemed like she had lost everything. Her body, her health, her spirit, everything had been sacrificed in the pursuit of a future that was slipping further and further away from her grasp. The price of her dreams had been too high, and Amanda was left with the painful realization that she had paid the ultimate price. Amanda's journey from the slums of Makoko to the bustling streets of New York had once been filled with hope, dreams of success, and a desire for a better life. But as the layers of her story unfolded, it became clear that the cost of her ambition was far greater than she had ever imagined. The choices she made, the promises she accepted, and the compromises she endured all led her down a path she could not undo. Her health deteriorated, her spirit broken, and the future she had fought so hard for now seemed out of reach. Amanda's story serves as a poignant reminder that success is not just about reaching the destination, but about the decisions we make along the way. Every choice, every sacrifice, carries weight. Sometimes, the promises of a better life can blind us to the consequences of what it takes to achieve it. How far would you go to achieve your dreams? Would you compromise your values for success? And when the price becomes too high, how do you find the strength to reclaim what you've lost? These are the questions Amanda's journey leaves us with. Her story raises an important lesson. Success should never come at the expense of who you are or what you believe in. The true cost of ambition is not just measured by what you gain, but by what you lose along the way. Will Amanda find redemption? Will she ever recover from the sacrifices she's made? Or has the price of her dreams been too high for any hope of recovery? These questions linger, and the story is far from over. Stay tuned for the next part of Twist Tales, where the story continues with more twists and turns. If you've enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. The journey is far from over. Keep watching to find out what happens next.